Thank you.
Okay, so it's the 15th page number in the PDF. So, okay, I think I would like to start with the previous page, last two lines, because it's a continuous of the two lines. I think the paragraph starting. Shall I?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Start where you're comfortable.
Okay. So, Iyadurei Solomon was a great teacher because he instilled in all children a sense of their own worth. Solomon raised my self esteem to a high point and convinced me, the son of parents who had not had the benefits of education, that I too could aspire to become whatever I wished. With faith, you can change your destiny, he would say. One day, when I was in the fourth form, my mathematics teacher, Ramakrishna Iyer, was teaching another class. Inadvertently, I wandered into that classroom, and in the manner of an old fashioned despot, Ramakrishna Iyer caught me by the neck and caned me in front of the whole class. Many months later, when I scored full marks in mathematics, he narrated the incident to the entire school at morning assembly. Whomsoever, whomsoever I cane becomes a great man. Take my word, this boy is going to bring glory to the school and to his teachers. His praise quite made up for the earlier humiliation. By the time I completed my education at Schwartz, I was a self confident boy determined to succeed. The decision to go in for further education was taken without a second thought. To us, in those days, the awareness of the possibilities for a professional education did not exist. Higher education simply meant going to college. The nearest college was at Tiruchirappalli, spelled Trichinopoly those days, and called Trichy for short. In 1950, I arrived at St. Joseph's College, Trichy, to study for the intermediate examination. I was not a bright student in terms of examination grades, but thanks to my two buddies back in Rameshwaram, I had acquired a practical bent of mind. Whenever I returned to Rameshwaram from Schwartz, my elder brother Mustafa Kamal, who ran a provision store on the railway station road, would call me in to give him a little help and then vanish for hours together, leaving the shop in my charge. I sold oil, onions, rice, and everything else. The fastest moving items I found were cigarettes and beedies. I used to wonder what made poor people smuggle away their hard earned money. When spared by Mustafa, I would be put in charge of his kiosk by my younger brother, Qasim Muhammad. So, kiosk is something like a little hut type or cubicle type where they sell newspaper things and all. And kiosk by my younger brother, Qasim Muhammad. There I sold novelties made of seashells. At St. Joseph's, I was lucky to find a teacher like the Reverend Father T.N. Sekura. He taught us English and was also our hostel warden. We were about 100 boys living in the three-storied hostel building. The Reverend Father used to visit each boy every night with a Bible in his hand. His energy and patience was amazing. He was a very considerate person who took care of even the most minute requirements of his students. On Deepavali, on his instructions, the brother in charge of the hostel and the mess volunteers would visit each room and distribute good gingerly oil for the ritual bath. I stayed on the St. Joseph's campus for 4 years and shared my room with two others. One was an Orthodox Iyengar from Sri Rangam and the other a Syrian Christian from Kerala. The three of us had a wonderful time together. When I was made secretary of the vegetarian mess during my third year in the hostel, we invited the rector, Reverend Father Kalatil, over for lunch one Sunday. Our menu included the choicest preparations from our diverse backgrounds. The result was rather unexpected, but Reverend Father was lavish in his praise of our efforts. We enjoyed every moment with Reverend Father Kalatil, who participated in our unsophisticated conversation with childlike enthusiasm. It was a memorable event for us all. My teachers at St. Joseph were the true followers of Kanchi Paramacharya, who evoked people to enjoy the action of giving. The vivid memory of our mathematics teacher, Professor Thotatri Iyengar, and Professor Suryanarayana Shastri walking together on the campus inspires me to this day. When I was in the final year at St. Joseph's, I acquired a taste for English literature. I began to read the great classics, Tolstoy, Scott, and Hardy being special favorites despite their exotic settings, and then I moved on to some works in philosophy. It was around this time that I developed a great interest in physics. The lessons on subatomic physics at St. Joseph's by my physics teachers, Professor Chinnadurai and Professor Krishnamurthy, introduced me to the concept of the half-life period and matters related to the radioactive decay of substances. Shiva Subramania Iyer, my science teacher at Rameshwaram, had never taught me the most subatomic particles are unstable and they disintegrate after a certain time into other particles. All this I was learning for the first time. But when he taught me to strive with diligence, because decay is inherent in all compounded things, was he not talking of the same thing? I wonder why some people tend to see science as something which takes man a excuse me. I wonder why some people tend to see science as something which takes man away from God. As I look at it, the path of science can always wind through the heart. For me, science has always been the path to spiritual enrichment and self-realization. Can I have 2 minutes, please? I'm getting an important call. Sorry. Excuse me.
Yes, you can, dear.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. 2 minutes, please. Sorry. Okay, I'll continue. Even the rational thought matrices of science have been home to fairy tales. I am an avid reader of books on cosmology and enjoy reading about celestial bodies. Many friends, while asking me questions related to space flights, sometimes slip into astrology. Quite honestly, I have never really understood the reason behind the great importance attached by people to the faraway planets in our solar system. As an art, I have nothing against astrology, but if it seeks acceptance under the guise of science, I reject it. I do not know how these myths evolved about planets, star constellations, and even satellites, that they can exercise power on human beings. The highly complicated calculations manipulated around the precise movements of celestial bodies to derive highly subjective conclusions appear illogical to me. As I see it, the Earth is the most powerful and energetic planet. As John Milton puts it so beautifully in Paradise Lost, Book 8, what if the sun be centered to the world and other stars, the planet Earth, so steadfast though she seem insensibly three different motions move? Wherever you go on this planet, there is movement and life. Even apparently inanimate things like rocks, metal, timber, clay are full of intrinsic movement, with electrons dancing around each nucleus. This motion originates in their response to the confinement imposed on them by the nucleus by means of electric forces which try to hold them as close as possible. Electrons, just like any individual with a certain amount of energy, detest confinement. The tighter the electrons are held by the nucleus, the higher their orbital velocity will be. In fact, the confinement of electrons in an atom results in enormous velocities of about 1,000 km per second. These high velocities make the atom appear a rigid sphere, just as a fast-moving fan appears like a disk. It is difficult to compress atoms more strongly, thus giving matter its familiar solid aspect. Everything solid thus contains much empty space within, and everything stationary contains great movement within. It is as though the great dance of Shiva is being performed on earth during every moment of our existence. So there was a lot of physics here. I hope you guys understood that. Okay. When I joined the BSc degree course at St. Joseph's, I was unaware of any other option for higher education. Nor did I have any information about career opportunities available to a student of science. Only after obtaining a BSc did I realize that physics was not my subject. I had to go into engineering to realize my dreams. I could have joined the engineering course long ago, right after finishing my intermediate course. Better late than never, I told myself as I made the detour applying for admission into the Madras Institute of Technology, that is MIT, regarded as the crown jewel of technical education in South India at that time. I managed to be on the list of selected candidates, but admission to this prestigious institution was an expensive affair. Around 1,000 rupees was required, and my father could not spare that much money. At that time, my sister Zahra stood behind me, mortgaging her gold bangles and chain. I was deeply touched by her determination to see me educated and by her faith in my abilities. I vowed to release her bangles from mortgage with my own earnings. The only way before me to earn money at that point of time was to study hard and get a scholarship. I went ahead at full steam. What fascinated me most at MIT was the sight of two decommissioned aircraft displayed there for the demonstration of the various subsystems of flying machines. I felt a strange attraction towards them and would sit near them long after other students had gone back to the hostel, admiring man's will to fly free in the sky like a bird. After completing my first year, When I had to opt for a specific branch, I almost spontaneously chose aeronautical engineering. The goal was very clear in my mind now. I was going to fly aircraft. I was convinced of this despite being aware of my lack of assertiveness, which probably came about because of my humble background. Around this time, I made special efforts to try and communicate with different kinds of people. There were setbacks, disappointments, and distractions, but my father's inspiring words anchored me in those periods of nebulous drift. Okay, so here you can see the pictures which she has shared. Should I be reading all this?
If you think it's necessary, please do. Otherwise, let them just explain it to them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here in the plate one, we can see his father, Zainul Abidin, who he says was not formally educated but was a man of great wisdom and kindness. And in the second picture, you can see Pakshi Lakshman Shastri, a close friend of my father and the head priest of the Rameshwaram temple. And there he has, in the second plate, he has shared the pictures of his house on the mosque street, and thousands of pilgrims from great distances descend on the ancient temple of Lord Shiva, which he often assisted by brother Qasim Muhammad in his shop selling aircrafts on the street. So we can see his house here. And here he has shared a picture of the old mosque in our locality where my father would take me and my brothers every evening to offer prayers. And the next picture, plate 4, we can see his brother. So my brother pointing at the T-square I used while studying engineering. So it's great to see he has captured all this and he could share with us. So in plate 5, you can see STR Manikam inside, a friend of my brother Mustafa Kamal, but a large collection of books. So this is his house from where I would borrow books while at Rameshwaram. Yeah, so it was kind of library for them. And yeah, next picture, he has shared a family get together. You can see Kalam sir in this picture. And in plate 7, it's a simple surroundings of Schwartz High School in Ramanathpuram. The words on the plaque read, "Let not thy days be spent in vain. When once gone, no gold can buy them back again." So he has shared his pictures, his teachers also. So here we can see the teachers at Schwartz High School. Yedurai Solomon is standing in the left and Ramakrishna Iyer sitting in the right. So he says they are the best examples of small town Indian teachers committed to nurturing talent. Okay, so now we can continue. He who knows others is learned, but the wise one is the one who knows himself. Learning without wisdom is of no use. I think that's a great quote. Everyone should remember this in their life. In the course of my education at MIT, 3 teachers shaped my thinking. Their combined contributions formed the foundation on which I later built my professional career. These 3 teachers were Professor Sponder, Professor K.A.V. Pandalai, and Professor Narasimha Rao. Each one of them had very distinct personalities, but they shared a common impulse, the capacity to feed their students' intellectual hunger by sheer brilliance and untiring zeal. So zeal here means with great enthusiasm or with great energy. Professor Sponder taught me technical aerodynamics. He was an Austrian with a rich practical experience in aeronautical engineering. During the Second World War, he had been captured by the Nazis and imprisoned in a concentration camp. Understandably, he had developed a very strong dislike for Germans. Incidentally, the aeronautical department was headed by a German professor, Walter Reppente. Another well-known professor, Dr. Kurt Tank, was a distinguished aeronautical engineer who had designed the German Focke-Wulf FW-190 single-seater fighter plane, an outstanding combat aircraft of the Second World War. Dr. Tank later joined the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited in Bangalore and was responsible for the design of India's first jet fighter, the HF-24 Marut. Notwithstanding these irritants, Professor Sponder preserved his individuality and maintained high professional standards. He was always calm, energetic, and in total control of himself. He kept abreast of the latest technologies and expected his students to do the same. I consulted him before opting for aeronautical engineering. He told me that one should never worry about one's future prospects. Instead, it was more important to lay sound foundations, to have sufficient enthusiasm and an accompanying passion for one's chosen field of study. The trouble with Indians, Professor Sponder used to observe, was not that they lacked educational opportunities or industrial infrastructure. The trouble was in their failure to discriminate between disciplines and to rationalize their choices. Why aeronautics? Why not electrical engineering? Why not mechanical engineering? I myself would like to tell all novitiate engineering students that when they choose their specialization, the essential point to consider is whether the choice articulates their inner feelings and aspirants. Professor K.V. Pandalai taught me aerostructure design and analysis. He was a cheerful, friendly, and enthusiastic teacher who brought a fresh approach to every year's teaching course. It was Professor Pandalai who opened up the secrets of structural engineering to us. Even today, I believe that everyone who has been taught by Professor Pandalai would agree that he was a man of great intellectual integrity and scholarship, but with no trace of arrogance. His students were free to disagree with him on several points in the classroom. Professor Narsingh Rao was a mathematician who taught us theoretical aerodynamics. I still remember his method of teaching fluid dynamics. After attending his classes, I began to prefer mathematical physics to any other subject. Often, I have been told I carry a surgical knife to aeronautical design reviews. If it had not been for Professor Rao's kind and persistent advice on picking up proofs to equations of aerodynamic flow, I would not have acquired this metaphorical tool. Aeronautics is a fascinating subject containing within it the promise of freedom. The great difference between freedom and escape, between motion and movement, between slide and flow are the secrets of this science. My teachers revealed these truths to me. Through their meticulous teaching, they created within me an excitement about aeronautics. Their intellectual fervor, clarity of thought, and passion of perfection helped me to launch into a serious study of fluid dynamics, modes of compressible medium motion, development of shock waves and shock-induced flow separation at increasing speeds, shock stall, and shock wave drag. Slowly, a great amalgamation of information took place in my mind. The structural features of aeroplanes began to gain new meanings: biplanes, monoplanes, tailless planes, canard configured planes, delta wing planes. All this began to assume increasing significance for me. The three teachers, all of them authorities in their different fields, helped me to mold a composite knowledge. My third and last year at MIT was a year of transition and was to have a great impact on my later life. In those days, a new climate of political enlightenment and industrial effort was sweeping
Shabnaz,
across. Yes,
Just take a small break and ask them if they understood everything.
yeah, sure, sure. Okay, so is there anything I can help you with? Like any paragraph or anything?
Ask them what they understood. Pick one or two and ask them what they understood.
Uh, okay. Hmm. Can I know the who are here as students?
See, only Vineet, I, and Meera, and you are not students. The rest are all students.
Okay, okay. So, Vignesh, are you there? Hello? Can you hear me, Vignesh?
Okay, you can ask somebody else. We don't have so much time.
Okay. I think anybody is free to speak up here. Like,
Chandrasekhar, would you like to speak?
I don't
Okay,
think.
then go ahead, Shabnaz.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Okay, okay. Okay, so. Okay, my third and last year at MIT was a year of transition and was to have a great impact on my later life. In those days, a new climate of political enlightenment and industrial effort was sweeping across the country. I had to test my belief in God and see if it could fit into the metrics of scientific thinking. The accepted view was that a belief in scientific methods was the only valid approach to knowledge. If so, I wondered, was matter alone the ultimate reality, and were spiritual phenomena but a manifestation, but a manifestation of matter? Were all ethical values relative, and was sensory perception the only source of knowledge and truth? I wondered about these issues, attempting to sort out the vexing question of scientific temper and my own spiritual interest. The value system in which I had been nurtured was profoundly religious. I had been taught that true reality lay beyond the material world in the spiritual realm only through inner experience. Meanwhile, when I had finished my coursework, I was assigned a project to design a low level attack aircraft together with four other colleagues. I had taken up the responsibility of preparing and drawing the aerodynamic design. My teammates distributed among themselves the task of designing the propulsion, structure, control, and instrumentation of the aircraft. One day, my design teacher, Professor Srinivasan, then the director of the MIT, reviewed my progress and declared it dismal and disappointing. I offered a dozen excuses for the delay, but none of them impressed Professor Srinivasan. I finally pleaded for a month's time to complete the task. The professor looked at me for some time and said, "Look, young man, today is Friday afternoon. I give you 3 days' time. If by Monday morning I don't get the configuration drawing, your scholarship will be stopped." I was dumbstruck. The scholarship was my lifeline, and I would be quite helpless if it was withdrawn. I could see no other way out but to finish the task as I had been instructed. That night, I remained at the drawing board, skipping dinner. Next morning, I took only an hour's break to freshen up and eat a little food. On Sunday morning, I was very near completion when suddenly I felt someone else's presence in the room. Professor Srinivasan was watching me from a distance. Coming straight from the gymkhana, he was still in his tennis outfit and had dropped in to see my progress. After examining my work, Professor Srinivasan hugged me affectionately and patted my back in appreciation. He said, I knew I was putting you under stress and asking you to meet an impossible deadline. I never expected you to perform so well. During the rest of the period of the project, I participated in an essay competition organized by the MIT Tamil Sangam, that is, the Literary Society. Tamil is my mother tongue, and I am proud of its origins, which have been traced back to sage Agastya in the pre Ramayana period. Its literature dates back to the 5th century BC. It is said to be a language molded by lawyers and grammarians and is internationally acclaimed for its clear cut logic. I was very enthusiastic about ensuring that science did not remain outside the purview of this wonderful language. I wrote an article entitled Let us make our own aircraft in Tamil. The article evoked much interest and I won the competition, taking the first prize from Devan, the editor of the popular Tamil weekly Ananda Vikatan. My most touching memory of MIT is related to Professor Sponder. We were posing for a group photograph as part of a farewell ritual. Lined up in 3 rows with the professor seated in the front. Suddenly, Professor Sponder got up and looked for me. I was standing in the 3rd row. Come and sit with me in the front, he said. I was taken aback by Professor Sponder's invitation. You're my best student, and hard work will help you bring a great name for your teachers in future. Embarrassed by the praise, but honored by the recognition, I sat with Professor Sponder for the photograph. Let God be your hope, your stay, your guide, and provide the lantern for your feet in your journey into the future, said the introverted genius, bidding me adieu. From MIT, I went to Hindustan Aeronautics Limited at Bangalore as a trainee. There I worked on engine overhauling as part of a team. Hands-on work on aircraft engine overhauling was very educative. When a principal learned in the classroom is borne out by practical experience, it creates a strange sense of excitement, akin to unexpectedly running into an old friend among a crowd of strangers. At Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, I worked on the overhauling of both the piston and turbine engines. The hazy concepts of gas dynamics and diffusion processes in the working principle of afterburning came into sharper focus in my mind. I was also trained in radial engine cum-drum operations. I learned how to check a crankshaft for wear and tear and the connecting rod and crankshaft for twist. I did calibrations of a fixed pitch fan fitted to a supercharged engine. I opened up pressure and acceleration cum speed control systems and air starter supply systems of turbo engines. Getting to understand feathering, unfeathering, and reversing of propeller engines was very interesting. The demonstration of the delicate art of beta, that is blade angle control by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited technicians, still lingers in my memory. They had neither studied in major universities nor were they merely implementing what their engineer in charge was suggesting. They had been working hands-on for years, and this had given them something like an intuitive feel for the work. Two alternative opportunities for employment, both close to my long-standing dream of flying, presented themselves before me when I came out of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited as a graduate aeronautical engineer. One was a career in the Air Force, and another was a job at the Directorate of Technical Development and Production, that is DTDNP Air, at the Ministry of Defense. I applied for both. The interview calls arrived from both the places almost simultaneously. I was asked to reach Dehradun by the Air Force recruitment authorities and Delhi by the DTDNP Air. The boy from the Coromandel coast took a train to the north of India. My destination was more than 2000 kilometers away and was to be my first encounter with the vastness of my motherland. So, anybody wants to speak up or should I continue? Hello? 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 Anybody there?
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Shamnaz?
Yeah.
Yeah. So continue till another 5 minutes since we have a lot of participants, and then
Okay.
we can leave the floor open for them to give the takeaways.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next we are on to chapter 3.
Okay, the chapter's over. So you know what?
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah,
Let
that's
us
fine.
start off the discussion.
Yeah,
Please,
that's
all of you give your takeaways one after the other. Kriti, Taranjit, Vignesh, or Chandrasekhar left. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Shamnaz, you read very well. At a
thank you.
pace,
Thanks.
trying to explain the details. This book, Wings of Fire, I have read before, but now reading with a different perspective, it is really very nice.
Okay.
Actually, it gives the details of the life of our ex-president, Mr. Abdul Kalam Azad.
Mm.
He has given the minute details of how difficult his upbringing was, but how he enjoyed. Like especially yesterday when Vineet was reading day before yesterday, that uh, an Anna meant a lot to him. Like that, there are so many instances where he has given the importance of education and along with the money. Like today also he said that if I wouldn't be completing my project, that project, I would leave my scholarship would.
Call.
So he was a very brilliant child right from childhood, what we can see, and questioning very little and small things, like why are people wasting their hard-earned money on smoking.
Yeah.
So these little things, that this shows that he has come from a very humble background, and he has also observed things in detail, and ample praises to his teachers, those who have shaped his fortune right from his school days to his college days. This has been, it is really very great of him. That is why he was a very great personality.
Very good.
Like very few people remember their teachers, very few people would praise somebody else. Like praising someone is a very difficult task. Like if I have to say something wrong about somebody, I can go on and on and on. But praising somebody, it's really difficult to find words.
Yes, you're
So
right.
this is what I think. So this book talks about more. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Kriti or Vignesh, who'll go? Kriti, why don't you start off? Kriti,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Actually, I'm having continuously cough, ma'am. So,
Okay. Fine. It's okay. Thank you for coming. Vignesh? Vignesh, you've not been responding, man. It's like as if you switched it on and disappeared. Vignesh. Okay. So I think we can close the meeting since Vignesh is not responding and Kriti can't speak. Taranjit has spoken. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just take a picture of where you stopped and post it in the group so that tomorrow the reader can start off from there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you, Vineet, for making time. Thank you, Taranjit. Thank you, Kriti. Even if you're not well, you came. Vignesh, thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.